What up, gamers? I'm Aaron. In the first few weeks of any Mythic Plus season, the LFG tool is a vibrant oasis of opportunity. But unfortunately, over the next few weeks, that oasis morphs into a sort of Mad Max hellscape, the likes of which you only see in the Maw or the state of Florida. So today I'm going to give you a few tips on how you can optimize your first few weeks to set yourself up for way more IO in the long term. Okay, so my first tip is that early IO is actually more valuable than any IO you get later. I'll give you an example. You see, IO inflation is a very real thing. If you have 2k IO at the end of a season, then you are a bum. You have no chance at rizzing your guild's Resto Druid, and you are probably getting declined from groups before you even apply to them. But if you have that same IO week 1, well then you're looking like a gamer. You've probably experienced some form of this yourself. If you do a plus 10 in the first week, it is buttery smooth. Everybody knows where and when to kick. They're using their defensives, and enemies are exploding. But if you come back to that same keystone 4 months later, then it is a Mythic Plus nightmare. I mean, your healer's keys barely work because of how much they've been drooled on, and your tank is either scared of 3 mobs, or he's gonna pull 30 and kill everyone. There's no in between. My personal experience with this tip happened in Season 2 of Shadowlands. I was a huge noob at the time, but I said I'm going to take the first couple days and I'm going to do as many keys as I possibly can. And to be clear, I fucking sucked, but because I was one of the first people to complete every dungeon at a reasonable level, I actually ended up on the front page of Raider IO. I was getting into groups that I had no business being in. You know, despite being a little goober, some of my teammates were some of the best players on the server, and while they made me look like a dumbass in every single key, it was actually a great learning opportunity and a great kickstart to my season. So in summary for this tip, give it your all these first couple weeks, because if you're going for high IO, there are going to be opportunities available right now that are impossible a couple months down the line. And if you're just going for Keystone Master or Keystone Legend, well, it might surprise you to find out that it could actually be easier right now than it is 30 eye levels and 3 months later. Number 2 is to use your WoW time wisely. And this is basically me saying play a lot of World of Warcraft, but in a way that's friendly to both job havers and the fathers of 18 children that can only play for 12 minutes on Sundays. We talked about how having IO sooner is valuable, and so the natural conclusion of that is that when you can play World of Warcraft, you're going to want to be playing World of Warcraft. You're going to want to be queuing up to as many keys as you can and getting right into the next one as soon as you're done with yours. You don't want to miss the gamer boat before it leaves the station, something. So you're going to be ideally hitting these milestones like 1500, 2k, 3k, as fast as you possibly can. So that way, when the god gamers are done gearing and they're ready to move on, they'll see you as one of them. You'll have no problem getting invited to the 12s, 15s, or even higher if you'd like, but if you wait too long, then by the time you're 3k, they're 3300, and by the time you're 3300, they're even higher. So you don't want to waste this early opportunity. Number 3 is actually very important, but my dumbass put it in the middle of the video. So number 3 is going to be care about your throughput, care about your damage, care about your healing, care about whatever the fuck it is tanks care about. Whatever it is, you need to care about it. There's been this idea that's sort of propagated around the community when people are giving advice, that you need to put mechanics above everything, and it's okay to sacrifice damage. I'm here to tell you that you can do both, and if you had to pick one, I would argue that doing good damage is actually more important. You never want to be the guy who copes with the, I did the most interrupts, while the other DPS are buying you a $20 steak dinner at Gapplebee's and making your damage look like it got left in Season 1. And I'm not saying that other shit like interrupts and stops, soothes don't matter. They absolutely matter, but realistically, the average person in the LFG tool doesn't know who to properly attribute blame to. They won't know if you're not kicking as much as you should. But when you get to the end of the key, and they see that you got blasted on damage, they're just gonna immediately assume that you suck. And at pretty much any keystone level, doing more damage is actually one of the best things you can do for your group. Packs need to die before your tank runs out of defensives. bosses need to die before they do 6 rotations of abilities, and you want to have as much leeway on the timer as you can possibly have. So if you find yourself consistently lower than you'd like to be on throughput, you have a couple options. The first one is to look at a player who succeeds at your spec. I don't care if you play the most booty-ass Z-tier spec, there is someone who is doing at least decently high keys on it. So if you just do exactly what they do, you'll probably do at least decent damage. Or at least check Raider IO to make sure you're playing the same build as the top players. But if you're completely lost, then I'll give you a little tip. Anytime that your cooldowns will last as long as the mobs, just send them. If your avatar is 20 seconds long and the packs are going to live for 18 seconds, then just send it. It's always better to overspend your cooldowns than it is to underspend them, and 90% of doing good damage is just getting good uses of your cooldowns, so more of them is always better. I promise you that more than any other generic gameplay tip I can give you, doing more damage is going to take you further in both actual keystones completed and in social standing than anything else. Alright, number 4 is pay attention and stay up to date. Now, this might seem like a dumbass suggestion, but seriously, when you look at people who are better than you at Mythic Plus, something that's really easy to forget is that they've done these dungeons 100 times. Yeah, your dumbass teammate can't heal this boss on an 8, meanwhile Ellesmere's doing it on an 18. But most of the people that you're seeing kick ass on day 1 are not only some of the best Mythic Plusers in the world, but they also did this dungeon 30 plus times on the PTR already. They've already gotten most of their fuck-ups out of the way, but you are gonna die, often, and to all kinds of ridiculous shit. And your main goal is going to be not tilting while continuing to learn from each of these dumbass deaths. You cannot let one bad key, no matter how miserable it is, tilt you into a 3-hour break. So while you're dying up a storm, make sure you're paying enough attention to actually learn from these deaths. Try to think about, how could I have lived this? How could I have controlled that pack a little bit better, or maybe killed it fast enough that that wouldn't have been an issue? And when you run into something that you don't exactly know how to deal with, think back to the fact that these other guys have done this dungeon 100 plus times more than you. You don't always have to blatantly steal whatever they're doing, but it's safe to assume that anything that you've had trouble with, they probably have already found a solution for. So when you're struggling and unsure, go ahead and look up a VOD of what these top guys are doing. You might see that they've already got a pretty elaborate solution. A good example would be like the Lynx mobs in Priory of the Sacred Flame. Yeah, they fuck you up, but these top groups have already found ways that they can make them easier to deal with, such as standing on lampposts. So don't be afraid to, copy their homework and look at whatever better players are doing. This will make your learning so much faster. So remember, keep being mindful about the issues that you're having, and don't be afraid to look for help when you need it. Anyways, let's get on to the last tip. So number 5 is going to be to use your friends list in your guild effectively. And I'm sure you're thinking, I've already heard this, but probably not in a practical way. You see, people have been making videos since Legion at least, saying, if you had a good time with somebody, then add them after your key. But realistically, that doesn't do much by itself. All it does is invite a situation where 6 months from now, you're looking through your friends list and you're thinking, who the hell is Shart Gaming? You remove them, and then you go on your way. Quite frankly, the idea that you should collect this stable of friends is really something that's not applicable outside of the highest level of keys. And the reason for that is because it's very unlikely that most people will follow the same trajectory. If you're trying to get better, then the guy that you meet in a +8 Arikara is going to be useless to you within the next couple weeks, because by the time that you're working on, 10s and 12s, if he's not right along there with you, then the only thing he does on your friends list is just guilt you into inviting him and letting him brick your key. So for this reason, we can't get too attached to our friends. And I know that sounds a bit sociopathic, but for us, we want to be cold-blooded IO machines, sort of like a keystone Terminator. And unfortunately, this is also the case for your real buds that you play with consistently. I've known a lot of people who have spent years playing with the exact same people, and they've made no progress. And that's because while they might say they want to get better, the people that they play with don't care as much, so you just spin your wheels for seasons at a time. If you want to take it to the next level and it doesn't seem like your pals do, then you might want to start scheduling some solo playtime. Now, as for your guildmates, you remember when I said that early IO is incredibly important? Well, your guildmates are a constant source of keystones that you can probably have pretty good access to. Most add-ons nowadays have the /keys feature, so pretty much whatever you're running, you likely have this, which can check whatever keys your guildmates have. So now, when you see something like, oh, it looks like my Shadow Priest has a +10 floodgate, I really need that. You can be the guy to hit him up and say, hey man, do you mind if we run your key together? They might not always say yes, but your odds are probably higher than, just queuing for random shit in the group finder. Many of your raiders will also be going out of their way to gear their characters in the first few weeks. So if you can't get any bites in LFG, then go head over to Discord and try to summon as many pre-mades as you possibly can. It will make gearing way faster, and again, getting groups that can time these keys early will make pugging so much easier once everybody logs off for the night. Alright, so those are my tips to getting IO fast. And in summary, log in, queue up for as many keys as you can, play as much as you can, and keep learning from every mistake, from every success. Do whatever you can to just put yourself in that next key and do better than you did in the last one. I swear, if you work hard at the start, it is going to carry you so much further than trying to play catch up in a month. But if you're looking for something to do until the seasons start, well, I've got quite a backlog of content at this point, so I would love it if you'd check out some of my other stuff. And if you're interested in more Mythic Plus tips and guides for success, well then I'll have plenty coming around shortly, so I'd love to have you as a subscriber. My name is Aaron, and thanks so much for your time. Peace. Gapplebees